This is Pine Leaf Needles, Skirmish from Middle-earth. Today we'll look at mounted combat. We'll look into three aspects of mounted combat. First, movement. Second, target selection. Finally, we'll show you some techniques of mounted combat. First, let's look at movement. To begin, we must mount. There are three types of war steeds you can get: light, medium, and heavy. The advantage of the medium is that it's free to all players. The light and heavy requires that you get the Rohan expansion, or that you buy them in the store. Now, as I purchased the Rohan expansion, it means I could use any size I want, and I'll probably vary it based on my character. For example, my hunter will probably choose a light steed, while my warden will likely use either a medium or a heavy. Now I'm going to show you the four gates that you can use in moving around. The first gate is that of a walk. I'm going to hit the insert key, and this sets my pace to a walk. I cannot go faster than that, no matter how much I hit the forward key. I'm using the W key in order to go forward. Now, since I am set to a walk, my maximum speed is 7.3 meters per second. Now, if you think about it, that's a pretty fair clip. In fact, it's faster than the running speed when you're dismounted. Now, when I complete this lap, I'll hit insert again, and my maximum speed will now become a trot. So now if I hit the W key, I can get up to 10.2. Now you see that I am now yellow up here, and that my fury bar now has a maximum in the middle. It was down here on the walk, up here on the trot. When I get to the start line again, I'll hit insert again, and my maximum now is a canter. And I'm up to 11.6. My fury bar is now up to 3/4. And I get around the track a bit faster. Finally, when I hit the start-stop line again, I'll hit insert again. And now I can go at a full gallop. Now my fury bar is full, and I'm moving at 14.5 meters per second. I am pretty heavily traded into the movement key. By default, a medium war steed has a maximum speed of 11.5. And that's slightly slower than the canter max speed is when I'm set this way. I have an increase of 3 meters per second through various tradings. Now there is another thing I wish to show you, and this is the quick stop. You just hit that button, you immediately stop, and you lose all fury. My usual way of stopping, though, is by hitting the S key. And that's a more gradual stop. If I hit it too long, I start going backwards. I can also use the W key and S key to fine-tune my speed. For example, now I'm going at 9.7, moving at a trot. Another quick tap, and I'm at 11.7 at a gallop. Slightly faster than the max speed on the canter. It takes a lot of practice in order to fine-tune your speed, but once you do get it down, you can go at any speed you need for your situation. Now there is one more option that is important in movement, and that is a combat option War Steed Auto Slowdown. This makes everything work a little bit differently. I normally have this off, but if I turn this on, this means that if I want to keep on moving, I must keep the W key down. This means now, if I release the W key, I immediately slow down without using any commands, without using the S key. In this case, you cannot fine-tune your speed, but you can set your maximum still with the insert key. So now, no matter how much I hit the W, I stay at my trot. And as soon as I hit the insert key, I start going at my canter since I had the W key still down. You have more fine-tune control when you're in the normal mode, and you don't have to keep your hand down constantly. But some people feel it is more comfortable with having the W key down and being able to stop quickly just by releasing it, as it is more similar to how they operate dismounted. And that concludes movement. So let us have a look at targeting. Let us find something to target. How about the trainer here? There he is. As you can see, when I targeted him, I also gained a yellow circle here. This is selected by an option. In this case, a filter option on your mini panel. If you don't see one come up when you select a target, then make sure that this is checked. Now if you wish to unclutter your mini panel, you can get rid of everything. Select all if you like to have everything, or perhaps just have the ones you want, such as your selector. Since I'll normally be out in the fields in the mounted combat, I might as well have everything up. The other thing that's important is a UI setting. After your slots, you have floating names, floating text size, selection name, and below that is selection indicator. With the selection indicator on, you have this yellow arrow that's on top of your target. This tells you where it is, so you can tell at a glance when you see it that this is your target. Makes it a lot easier to see in mounted combat. Other people cannot stand seeing this big arrow pointing while they're moving around. I therefore prefer not to have it. Some people prefer to have it up only when in combat, which is the checkbox under that. So now it'll only turn on if I'm in combat, which I'm not. It will turn red when you are in combat. And that concludes the lesson on selection. So now I will head out into the fields, where we'll have some demonstrations of combat techniques. We're back. Now we're going to look at the various techniques you can use in mounted combat. There are 4 techniques I'll speak of: jousting, circling, standing, and falling back. In jousting, you head for your enemy, you strike. You go past your enemy, turn around, and make another strike. This is good if you're going against a mounted foe, and if you want to be able to do melee attacks. It brings out the maximum fury, in that you pass them well away, then you turn around quickly, and then you build up fury, and when you get up speed and fury up, you strike again. Now this goblin here decided to start a fight, so we'll oblige him. There, he's down. And I have one more goblin to kill, like this one. Now, of course, you've got your enemy also trying to outflank you, which means that sometimes they're going to make it tough just to simply go around, turn, and go around again. So you have these various techniques. In the end, you're going to have to depend on yourself to know just what to do in each situation. Now that finishes my quest. So I'll be leaving the area now. Before we continue on the other techniques, let's have a look at the Spuron command. The Spuron command is a special command that allows you to handle your movement automatically while you just worry about the attacks. You say, if it handles everything automatically, why not use it all the time? The simple answer is power. Now the 49 mount power in order to activate it isn't much, but the 25% increase in skill costs, the 5 power per second cost, and the 10 mount per power second cost is obviously going to be a disincentive from using it. But if for some reason you do not feel like doing the manual controls for one specific combat, you could use this command. Now I'm going to attack this skirmisher. I'll start out manually, hit him, then activate spur on, and as soon as I hit the next attack, it automatically turns around for me, and I don't have to worry about the messy attempts in order to do my own turning. Of course, as you saw there, I ran right into another warg rider, and now I'm facing two opponents at once. Okay, make that 3 opponents at once. Now this is the disadvantage of the jousting system when you are in an area with a large number of enemies. And that is simply that you tend to go over to them and aggro them. And when you have less control of it when you're using spur on, it just exacerbates the problem. And that is spur on, where I am running out of power now because I was using that ability. Therefore I'll now turn it off and head back to town. Now it's time that we look at some circling. We have this orc ahead. This orc is on foot and therefore will be much slower than I am. How about if I had a way in which I could go after him and never get hit? I could do melee attacks and do jousting just as I did before. Yet there's another technique I'd like to show now. I'll head into my Rittermark stance, which is my ranged weapon stance. This means I'll be throwing javelins. What I can do then, and instead of passing right at him, I will pass around him. And then I'll circle around him. This way, I'll be doing something similar as to how a hunter would want to have it. Hunters want to stay out of melee range, but they would like to stay within a nice close enough range so they could use their bows. Now if you want to circle around the enemy, you must be able to stay in contact with them without them getting into your melee range. Obviously, this works best if your opponent only has melee attacks. Let's see how this works. Now the turns can be a little bit on the tight side. Which means you'll probably need a little bit work on your agility in order to get this to work right. As you see, I haven't taken any damage yet because the orc hasn't been able to reach me. This works best against opponents that are slower than you. The third technique is the standing technique. Now the standing technique means that you just stay there and fight them almost as if you were on foot. Let's see if I can find someone who isn't in the middle of a fight with Rohirrim guards. Ah, a boar. I don't feel like fighting this warband at the moment. So therefore, I will stand here and I will start a combat. Now there's a comment by one Rohirrim that if you're going to just stand there, you might as well fight them on foot. Most likely, most of your best skills will be on foot. So therefore, if you plan to use the standing technique, you may well consider being on foot. Why just sit on your horse and stand? One, because your stand has this large pool of endurance and will be taking some of the damage for you. Therefore, if they're going to take some of the damage, they can almost act as a meat shield for you. If you're just going to stand there and do plan to use it as a meat shield, you could use the Rohirrim stance, which is the defensive stance. Now the other reason why you might want to do this is if you wanted to make a quick getaway. You're in the middle of traveling from one place to another, someone attacks you, and you don't feel like spending the time of dismounting, using your best skills, remounting, and then resuming your way. Now the last one I'm going to show you is the fallback technique. This is similar to the stand technique, except I'm kiting. This is good for hunters, for example, or any of the people with ranged attacks. I find that quite effective also with the Lore Master. It does help though if you don't have any enemies to your back. If you're familiar with kiting, then you're quite familiar with this technique. And there you have it. Now the problem with this technique in standing is you don't build any fury, because in order to build fury you must move. Therefore you are giving up quickness in killing them in order to stand and not aggro anything else. That's when you want to stand instead of doing melee passes, is if you have a populated area and you don't want to aggro everyone around, then you need to stand. You could of course just as well do this on foot. Since I now have all those warden skills that I've been practicing for the last 75 levels before Rohan was released. but that means that I had to dismount, fight him, and remount. You'll determine when one is more convenient than the other. So I'll now continue on my way, and I'll leave you for today. This is Pine Leaf Needles. May your shield protect you, and your spear never break.